This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hope you had a great weekend. Started off a little gloomy, but sure was nice yesterday. And, of course, we had some great Game 7 action, which we will get to. And I kind of thought that would be the top story today for us. Talking about the Leafs getting bounced and Dallas taking care of Vegas in Game 7 and the rest of the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But obviously, things changed when this morning the Winnipeg Jets put out the press release that Rick Bowness was retiring from coaching. That is the story today here in Winnipeg. Rick's incredible contributions here over 2 years, as well as moving forward, who's going to be the new head coach? Is it Scott Arniel, which many have almost assumed was going to be the next guy, or will there be a legitimate search? We'll find out, I guess, at some point when Kevin Cheveldayoff speaks a little later on, but we will have Rick's press conference in about an hour live right here during Winnipeg Sports Talk. So we'll go down to the Matt Frost Media Center and have all of that for you and have that for you on the program. Before that, we're going to connect with Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press, talk about the big news of today and Rick Bowness stepping down and or retiring from coaching. And, of course, the Bombers are back this week, and Milt Stegall will be, as he's teased repeatedly over the last couple of weeks, will be taking part in the first day of rookie camp. That should be fun. We're going to head down to Bomber HQ at Princess Auto Stadium and welcome in Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com a little later on. Listen, welcome to everyone listening on the podcast. Shout out to everybody in chat. I hope you had a great weekend. And a big thank you to all the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily happen each and every day. Big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, the Beer Can. What an awesome weekend to get things going for the Beer Can. Rolly's Transfer, Consolidated Supply, Modern Man, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, as well as Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, F Apparel, and Wallace & Wallace. Oh, and of course, a big golf weekend for Canadians, too. Taylor Pendrith winning on the PGA Tour. We'll get to that for our friends at Breezy Bend a little bit later on. But welcome, everyone in chat, and welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm feeling good getting into the summer, and I'm starting to have memories of the last time the Jets didn't have a head coach in the summer, and what an exciting time that was with Trotz Watch. So Winnipeg head coach watch will come soon, but today, about honoring Rick Bowness and his retirement, a big press conference coming up. I mean, what an incredible coaching career, 38 seasons, and he said in his press conference last week, he came here to do a number of things. I thought he accomplished just about everything except for postseason success, but they got into the playoffs, improves the culture, improves the defensive structure. I mean, won the Jennings Trophy. Pretty incredible 2 years, but time to move on. And some questions coming up for the Jets here is who's going to coach this team? And Scott Arniel, I would think, is in the driver's seat, but hey, it's hasn't been decided until there's pen on paper.
Yeah, listen, I think Arniel did themselves a lot of favors with the way or maybe the team did Arnie a favor of the way they played while Bones was out over the course of, a few periods during the last two seasons. And again, spent plenty of time talking about Arneal and other coaching candidates. And well, listen, first and foremost, we're going to hear from Bones. And I mean, I think we all knew that there was a team option for the next year. We'll find out whether this was entirely Rick's decision, whether this was somewhat mutual. Because as we said before, I mean, there was a number of things that we heard from Bones that didn't really sound like a guy that was, not thinking about coming back. But as I said, we'll hear what Rick has to say. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. I do think, Remo, that today will probably be about appreciating appreciating the job that Rick did. And, we'll get into this with Hammer in a few minutes. This team on his watch won 46 games last year and then 52 games this year, tying a franchise record, and won the Jennings Trophy as, the best goals against in the entire National Hockey League. And to think that would be what this team was doing or would do, considering what the state of the franchise was when Bones came in and took over in just, Canada Day 2 years ago. Listen, I know the playoffs were disappointing this year, and of course last year, especially so against the Vegas Golden Knights with the way the team played and bowed out. But I mean, my takeaway from this is, Bones came in with some pretty key things on the to-do list and really moved this franchise forward in so many directions. And he is leaving this team in a much, much better place than when he took over.
Yeah, during the regular season this year, set a number of club records for road wins, 25 winning streak, 8 games twice, point streak, 14-game point streak. They had the 35 consecutive games, 3 goals or fewer, which we raised a banner for on this program. They had a 14-game run with allowing 2 goals. So, fixing the defense, certainly a priority. You look at, the personnel that they have, and, the popular topic here is saying, they need to get better on defense. I mean, they just led the NHL in goals allowed. So I think by all accounts, it was a successful run here, 52 wins, matching the franchise record from 17-18. And on your way out, finalist for the Jack Adams Award. So, and we thought, he probably was on his way to getting nominated for the Jack Adams last year, but things just fell off the rails in January last year. But they were able to, reverse that course this year and stay on track and easily make it into the playoffs and almost challenge for, they did challenge for first in the Central Division, falling short to Dallas.
Why don't we let's? If you missed it last week, Bones did speak at the end of the season, as did the players and Kevin Cheveldayoff, and knowing that Rick's retiring from coaching, as announced earlier, it's interesting to sort of look back at what he had to say last week when things ended. Here is Bones, I think, in some ways reflecting, or maybe reminding people the successes that they did have despite the disappointment of the series against the Colorado Avalanche. Here's just Bones on the accomplishments that he and his coaching staff were able to do in this last 2 seasons.
So they brought me in to do what? Change the culture. We had to change the culture. This organization, this team had a bad reputation. We've improved that. We fixed that. We had to give the team a better identity that gave them a chance to win. We did that. We had to get this team back in the playoffs because it missed the playoffs. We did that. That all being said, so we did all those. We're still very disappointed that we came up short. All right, they even get to 6 or 7 games, right? So we've made huge strides. Is there more to go? Yes, there is. But those are the reasons they brought me in. We've accomplished that, and now we have to take it to the next level.
So there was Rick Bowness last week at the conclusion of the season after the Game 5 loss to the Colorado Avalanche. And this is what Bones had to say when he was asked about his future with the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, you know what? For the last 7 years, since my last year in Tampa, every year I sit there and I talk to Judy. talk to the kids. I'll talk to Chipper and Chevy. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I want to do, but that'll come out.
Okay, so in a perfect world, you're back?
We'll let you know.
I took that, and again, maybe it was part of some of the other things that Rick had to say around that, but I took that he was maybe thinking about coming, but knowing now that he is retiring, maybe this was something that he knew was happening all along, and I guess we're just speculating. I mean, we'll hear more from Rick on this decision a little bit later on, Reem.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what they have to say there, Huss. It'll be interesting, what comes out. But, it said, okay, we did what we wanted to do. Now we got to take it to the next level. It's got to be disappointing on some level that he's not going to be the guy that gets to do that, to take it to the next level. But, you look at it, Huss, Rick Bowness, he's getting up there in age. He's almost 70 years old. He's had to take time off here, for health reasons, for himself and for his wife. And a certain time, I think you got to hang it up. Look at these numbers, Huss. He is one of only 3 head coaches to serve behind the bench in 5 different decades. 2,726 games as an NHL coach, most by anyone in league history. Like, that is an insane number. We showed his hockey DB, Huss, last week. You have to scroll, so it's endless. It's like endless scroll. So I think he's had an incredible career. He talked about evaluating with his family. Seems like, want to go out on top. Jack Adams nominee. This would be good time. But I think on some level, you'd want to come back and try to take this thing to the next level, as he said. And we'll have to see who the person is who's going to try and do that.
Listen, we'll get into the next head coach. That'll be a big discussion that will move forward. When I see Matthew Jansen saying in chat, Jets promoting Arneal would be the most true north thing ever. You have a 110-point team and coaches would want a piece of it. At least conduct some interviews. By all accounts, and again, we'll get clarity coming up in the press conference, but Darren Drager was the one, Remo, that put this out earlier today, kind of with the scoop of what was happening. He has certainly mentioned that, Scott Arneal, the associate coach, did a great job when Rick was away. It would be at the top of the line, but it was indicated that all options will be discussed as part of this process. So I'm not anticipating, this press conference today and then, later on this week announcing Arnie as the next head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. And I think that's the right thing to do. Listen, even if you think you have that guy, you see what else is out there. You explore all of your options. And if they think that Arnie's the best guy to move this thing forward, then, they stay with him. There's a lot that goes into, the head coach. And I think we've seen how impactful coaching and a head coach can be with the turnaround that Rick made over the course of these 2 seasons, with all of those things that we had mentioned. And then individually, maybe as we saw how impactful coaching can be over the course of that playoff series. And listen, a lot of credit goes to Colorado. By the way, very interesting article on the weekend. I believe it was from Corey Masiak in the Denver Post. I know Marat retweeted this. Just about listen, every team uses analytics. That's no surprise. But I think the way teams utilize it is a little different. It was very interesting to hear how much of the data went into game planning for the Winnipeg Jets, and I think that probably speaks to part of the reasons why the Avalanche were so successful against Winnipeg with what their game plan was, as opposed to what they had done earlier in the year. So we're going to stay on top of this. We're going to talk about it with Hammer. He's coming up in just a few minutes, Reem. But very quickly, the Golden Knights are done, and so are the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it seems like there's a lot of happy people in chat because of the results of Game 7s on the weekend.
Yeah, I wanted Toronto to win. I don't know. I enjoyed, which one did you hate more? Did you want to see Toronto lose, or did you want to see Boston blow a 3-1 lead for the second year in a row? And I wanted to see Boston blow that lead for Toronto. A really good series. You come back down 3-1. You've had injuries all series with your goalie in a Game 7. and then you had Matthews out, not 100%. Nylander missed games, so certainly tough for Toronto. I don't think a lot was expected of them compared to previous years. And there's a lot of Maple Leaf haters out there, and I'm sure they're rejoicing. But I think everyone outside of Vegas, very happy to see the Golden Knights out. Some of the stuff that they've been doing with LTIR has been pretty obvious.
The shenanigans.
Yeah, it's been pretty obvious, and I don't know, against the spirit of the rule. And yeah, look, Dallas is a great team. That was a tough series, and that road is going to be extremely tough. Now they have to play Colorado, and everyone thinks they're going to have to play Edmonton, the winner of that series. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out, but we're going to have a new Stanley Cup champion this year. A lot of people happy, a lot of jokes flying around that they've already put Stone back on LTIR to free up cap space for the summer. And I mean, there's a lot of comedy happening coming out of this, which is great. And I mean, just look at this video they posted of Mark Stone on their Twitter account, Huss, and you go down to the comments. Just about a lot of spleen related comedy. So,
I'm surprised spleen wasn't trending last night after Game 7.
So, look, that was a great series. Not a lot of goals in that, which I think surprised me, but we'll see how Dallas does against Colorado, and Boston moves on to play Florida, who bounced them last year. So a couple of great Game 7s, very close. And beautiful goal by Pasternak. Really nice play by Lindholm too, off the boards. I think that was just well placed, and it was a hard fought. And credit to Dallas for getting one over on Vegas after Vegas eliminated them last year.
Yeah, full marks to the Stars. You dropped the first two at home against the reigning defending Stanley Cup champs. They put themselves in a real hole, and to think that they were able to come back, rattle off 3 in a row, and then win a deciding Game 7. Can't say enough about the Stars. And listen, we'll get to this in the Coolbet lines a little later on and let you know how things are shaping up for round 2. This Dallas-Colorado series is going to be awesome. And listen, I'm still hoping we get Edmonton-Colorado just for the entertainment value involved. I do think people are sleeping on Vancouver, though. It doesn't seem like anybody's giving them a chance. And, considering what they've done all year long, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But Dallas having to go the full 7, extended right to the brink against Vegas. Sometimes, iron sharpens iron and you're in a good spot. But I'll tell you what, Colorado getting that extra rest, dispatching the Jets early, I think are in a really good spot to potentially win this series as a slight underdog.
Yeah, well, I think, the rest for Colorado, like is Jonathan Drouin, what's his status going to be? And guys who are injured there getting a chance to heal. For Dallas, I think they're just as deep team, very solid defensively. I think they have the slight edge in goaltending as well, even if Ottinger maybe didn't play like it for the series. But Dallas, they did it for 82 games. They won the division, top in the conference. And that's such a hard road. Edmonton, we'll see how they do against Vancouver. I'd probably pick Edmonton too, but Vancouver, they got some scorers. And can Stuart Skinner get it done? Can this defense hold up? Can their power play operate the way they did against LA? So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But I think we're going to have a very strong final 4 teams here, no matter who wins each series.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, listen, we're going to have Jeff Hamilton come on with us in just a minute. Do want to thank one of our newest sponsors, the gang at Rolly's Transfer. You know that Rolly's Transfer is the your number one source for moving services here in Southern Manitoba for over 60 years, family owned and operated. And with their logistics work that they do, they have more routes throughout. Sorry, just doing a quick fire alarm check here, folks. More routes all around Southern Manitoba, which will give you the best prices as well as the best route. And listen, service is exactly what you need, and a trusted name for moving, because that can be the most stressful of all things you do. The good folks at Rolly's have been helping out Manitobans for over 60 years and can do that for you. Go to their new website, rollys.com, ROLLYS. Right on the top right, you can request a quote. They'll turn it around real quick. He'll let you know what it'll cost for you and take some of the stress out of moving with Manitoba's moving experts, Rolly's Transfer. I know a lot of people were out working in the, working in their yards right now on the weekend. Well, a lot of people heading over to Consolidated Supply for help on that. Irrigation experts in Manitoba. If you have irrigation needs for either your home or your business, they've got you covered. Also, the leaders in artificial turf. Golf carts, both new and used, is the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. And of course, they are also the leaders in small engine repair, but also have great things for your property like hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchen options. Pop by and see them. Consolidated Supply. Showroom is open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. Well, for those golf carts, trucks, more, you got to get powered up, and Manitoba Battery is that place to shop local and get the best prices in town, period, on batteries, beating the pants off the big box stores. Of course, Donnie and the gang now have 2 locations, Portage, or the original on Logan Avenue, and the new store in the south side of the city on 452 Dovercourt Drive. And the best part about their service is you can pop into either location, or you can just give them a call or go to manitobabattery.com and take advantage of free delivery anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Check out the big spring sale on right now, manitobabattery.com, and tell them your boys at H&L sent you. Hey, if you need to look good for spring, head on over to Modern Man Barbershop, guys. 8 locations in Winnipeg, so one conveniently located near you. And Modern Man has you covered with great haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Great men's hair care products as well. Easiest way to book your look and make an appointment is just to simply go online to modernmanbarber.com and pop down to one of the 8 Modern Man locations here in the city of Winnipeg. And just before we bring in Jeff Hamilton, cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. Bomber season is here. Ed Tait's going to join us a little later on. Milt Stiegel's going to be participating in rookie camp. And if you can believe it, we'll be in Princess Auto Stadium later on this month for an exhibition game before the season gets going on next month. Cannot wait for football season and can't wait to see many of you around the Rum Hut enjoying a CC or two at Princess Auto Stadium, as Canadian Club, of course, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and you can pick up Canadian Club at your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right, Rick Bowness press conference at the top of the hour. Right now, though, let's welcome in Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Hammer, great to have you on the program today, and kind of thought that we'd be speaking about a number of topics, but obviously with the news this morning, big news today, Rick Bowness retiring from the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, news that I think... Personally, I'm not all that surprised. You look at Bowness's postseason remarks. Clearly this is a guy who he got emotional when talking about his future. To me personally, my gut felt like he was maybe putting out a plea there to stick around. It looked like he definitely gave that vibe of unfinished business. But to that point, this is a business, and clearly had some thoughts afterwards, and would have spoke to his wife, Judy, and made the decision to hang him up, if you will, after a long 38 seasons behind the bench. Wow. Just think about that. I'm 38 years old. So 1 for every year I've been alive. Incredible run for him. And while I wouldn't quite say finished on top, obviously winning the Stanley Cup would have been the ultimate finishing on top. But I think it is pretty neat that for a guy who's, the impact that he's had on this league, the amount of time he's spent behind a bench, as a head coach, as an assistant coach, as just, as a player, to be nominated for his first Jack Adams Award for the top NHL coach in the league, I think is a pretty special way to go out. But I got a feeling, Huss, I don't think this is the end of Bones, if you will, when it comes to having his fingerprints on a hockey team.
Well, it's a great point. And listen, just before we kind of get to the job that Rick did here and the team moving forward, it is interesting to note, and again, we're going to hear from Bones, at the presser a little later on today in the program, and we'll have that for you live. It was pretty clear Rick Bowness is retiring from coaching. This guy has hockey in his blood, and I have no doubt that there'll be plenty of opportunities to still stay involved in the game for Bones, probably in a number of places around the league.
Well, that's the one thing I think I certainly took away from, the time that I covered him all last season, obviously spending a lot of time on the road. The one thing that stood out, and something you heard a ton about on the eve of hiring Rick Bowness when he became official as the new head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, is just he's endeared across the entire league. And it's one thing to say that, it's a whole other thing to see it. And like I said, spending that time on the road, it was just very obvious. I mean, the guy couldn't, they all have obviously the tunnels and all the arenas, and he couldn't walk, I'm not even kidding, 10 feet without running into somebody who he knew or who knew him, who he wanted to stop and talk to, or they wanted to stop him and talk to him, and he was more than happy to do it. And I'm not talking players or executives. I'm talking arena staff, people who you might not expect to have a connection with Rick Bowness, people who have been around. They're on every team, somebody who is linked to a team for decades. Again, maybe not a hockey personnel. It might be somebody who was a caretaker at one point that rose up and has just become an ambassador, right? All these different unique situations in leagues. Rick Bowness, knew those people and was respected by those people. And I just think, as you mentioned, Huss, I don't think that, if he does continue a career, maybe outside of coaching, maybe more consulting, maybe more of I don't think necessarily is destined for a GM job or would want that at his age. But I don't think, given what he said at his year-end, presser, still has very much love for the game. And, I don't think the options will be few. I think there will be a lot of people reaching out to him, gauging his interest. One thing I said to you off mic, I always thought if he wasn't with the Jets and still wanted to do coaching, that he might be an ideal candidate with the Ottawa Senators, just given his connection, obviously, to his son, Ryan Bowness, who's an assistant general manager there. And, Rick talks so glowingly about his grandkids and wanting to spend time with them. And certainly when he's in Ottawa, or when, I've seen it firsthand, him, take that time and attention to talk to them and see them, and, just the smile that lights up his face. So I wouldn't be surprised if, I'm not saying it's happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Ottawa Senators had his number. We're asking maybe, if he was interested in a consulting job down the road. But clearly, obviously wants to get out behind the bench. That's a lot of work, a lot of travel. He's had some health issues. His wife, Judy's had some health issues. Those are both well documented. So maybe this is a nice opportunity to take a step back after what, again, not a great ending, but an overall pretty good season for a guy who was here for 2 seasons.
Obviously, Jeff, we know how important family is to Bones. I think that would be a wonderful place for where Rick would go, be closer to his son, Ryan. But I can also tell you from speaking with Dave Poulin over the years, both on the show and off air, the amount of respect Pooley has for Bones is huge. And mind you, kind of to what you just said, I mean, I think there's a lot of people in that boat, but we would have him on or talk to him before coming on the program, and he was always talking about the job that Rick did, and let's get to that. You want to talk about leaving a situation in a better place than you found it. For a guy that came in, off of a real low for this franchise. I mean, Maurice leaving, the very awkward year of Dave Lowry. For Bones to come in and put up 46 wins and 52 wins, tying a franchise record, and most importantly, changing that culture, which was number one on that list. Would you have loved more playoff success? Of course. But, looking back now and appreciating what Rick did, it's they won the Jennings Trophy. I mean, it still is pretty amazing the impact he was able to have in these 2 years here as head coach.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, just even to speak before that, you don't last as long in this hockey game without, as long as Rick Bowness did. One, that's very difficult not to burn bridges or not to piss somebody off along the way without, obviously being a guy who can communicate. And clearly, Rick Bowness, as you mentioned, Huss, was brought in as Rick Bowness, very clearly stated again in that, at the beginning and then again at his most recent presser, that his job was to come in and fix the culture. And, he knew it was broken. He knew that the reputation that the Jets had across the league was not a good one. You saw that in, the exit of Dave Lowry and earlier than that, Paul Maurice leaving the team. And, I think you can say in that first season, he certainly accomplished a lot. I mean, how many times I wrote the bonus effect in the first half of that season, it's almost dizzying to think about. But he certainly got those players on board right away, got them to play a better game, a more consistent game. And I think at the end of year one, with just how they fell off, and certainly, his anger heading into the offseason and calling out players. I mean, this, as I'm speaking out loud, this, it's only 2 years, but he's been through quite a bit with this group. And then to kind of be able to rebound, to be able to rebound from whatever animosity or miscommunication existed last offseason, to have the team come in and play the way they played, to play as consistently as they did throughout the year, and to improve on what was in year one, the biggest shot against the team was its defensive structure, and be able to instill a defensive structure that, as you mentioned, won them the Jennings Trophy, became the team. I mean, just think about that. The team that struggled so mightily on defense in year one allowed the fewest amount of goals in year two, with a defensive group that people are still talking need a major revamp. Now, obviously, Connor Hellebuck's performance between the pipes sounds like he's going to win his second Vezina Trophy, and I think this is his fourth nomination. He obviously had an incredible season. Just for him to come in, I think you can say things like mission accomplished for him. And when you take into consideration the amount of time, I mean, if you would have said, we always say this, if you would have said the day that he showed up to take over this broken team, if you will, that they would win the Jennings Trophy in the second year, without knowing, obviously, the first round exit in both seasons, but particularly the heartbreak that it was this season for fans, I think you would have taken it. You would have definitely taken it. I mean, that shows major progress, major growth, and that is Rick Bowness. That was what. He came as advertised. He came as a guy who, over his decades and decades behind the bench, has evolved as a coach, has had that ability to build relationships. He did that with the players and the staff and the organization. He made the Jets a more likable team. He brought in a level of accountability that I would still argue, continues to be a work in progress. It's certainly but he's made some major strides. Just based on what you heard from players at the end of this season, taking the level of accountability that they did. So, he was here for 2 seasons. He wasn't here for 13. He's a guy that came in and for what he was able to achieve, he ultimately, and this is absolutely no doubt what you can say about him, whether you like him, you disliked him, didn't like his job, loved his job, is that that the team that he took over is in a much better position than it was, those 2 years ago. So certainly, a job well done for him, an unfinished job, if you ask him. There's no doubt about that. You heard that in his comments. But I think when you look at the Rick Bowness era here, I don't think fans will necessarily look on it as a black eye by any stretch of the imagination, and will instead look at it as some major steps in the right direction. We'll see what happens from here.
Well, and you're just to that point, and again, we'll hear from the organization a little later on today on the program, and maybe get some more information about moving forward with the next head coach. But I will say this: whoever sits in Rick's office moving forward is coming into a night and day scenario from where this team was when Rick took the job just after Canada Day a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And whether that's, I'm sure we'll talk about that, whether that's Scott Arniel moving into that position, or whether there's really going to be an honest search or a wider net, if you will, and looking for potential candidates. Yeah, absolutely. I think you have a team that, you clearly have a team that when other prospective coaches are identifying clubs that they want to take over, especially those ones that will have, their pick of the litter, if you will, have the resume that they'll be wanted coaches. If you looked at if you rewinded 2 years ago, I don't think that line was long. Now, obviously, there were some, high-profile names that were brought up in the process 2 years ago when they ultimately chose Rick Bowness. But, it was a tough, team to adopt. It was going to be a long struggle. And I think, after the Jets put all their cards in on Barry Trotz, I think they were happy to take Rick Bowness. I think a lot of people within that organization were telling them that Rick was the guy to help with this, current culture of the team, and could take them and envision taking them to places he eventually took them. But now, as you ponder what your future head coach would be, I think you would be borderline derelict of duty a bit if you didn't, exercise what interest was out there. And that's, again, just doing business. But we'll see what that looks like. We'll see if there is one. A lot of people are talking about Scott Arniel being, taking over that job 2 years ago. There is a lot of, it's the truth that Scott Arniel was looking for a head coaching job here. He wanted that job. And I think he was, I think it's fair to say he would have shown a little bit of reluctance in taking the associate coach because he wanted to take that next step. Well, is he now in that position to take that next step? I'll tell you right now, I have a hard time thinking if they go in a different direction as Scott Arniel, that he's going to stick around and play a similar role that he's been playing. But again, I can't predict the future and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I do think that right now Scott Arniel has to be the leading candidate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it has almost been assumed at times by people, fairly or unfairly, that, there's sort of, was a built-in succession plan, post Bones moving on to Arniel. And again, like, I think the club owes it to itself and its fan base to, legitimately consider all the other options. But when you look at the amount of time Rick was away over the last couple of years and Arnie took over, the results were quite good. And he's also a guy that I think you always learn a lot the first time around. He had a rough run in Columbus. It was, a tough situation, although, another smaller market with some unique challenges. And I think maybe it was Arnie, was someone else talking about his situation. The old adage where you don't know what you don't know until you know, and you don't know the answers. You don't know even the questions until, you have some experience. And, certainly he has been working very hard to get another opportunity. And I would say that working with Bones the way that he did would be a feather in his cap when it comes to this. And obviously there's a huge level of familiarity with what he had done before the Jets era, back with the Manitoba Moose for, much of the same management group.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, there's a couple things that obviously work in Scott Arniel's favor. His connection to the Winnipeg Jets. There's the trust clearly that exists between the existing staff, including General Manager Kevin Cheveldayoff and co-owner Mark Chipman. There's a relationship there, a trust there. I'm sure there was some talk about potential when they wrote up Rick Bowness's contract, giving the team that third option, what that could look like 2 years down the road in those chats. And, Scott Arniel, I think what's against him is, obviously, you mentioned is, his brief and unsuccessful bid as a head coach in this league. But again, he's been around for a very long time, has been with a lot of teams that, he's played a key role as an associate coach. He's earned, you can certainly argue he's earned that second opportunity. And as you mentioned, Huss has definitely learned from those experiences. I think what works against him is he's not the sexy pick, and it's a tough situation, I think, optically, if you will, to move on from a Jack Adams trophy winner to, a guy who doesn't have that resume or doesn't have that success as a head coach. But I'll tell you what, the players in that room respect Scott Arniel. He's a quiet, not, when you look at media, his he's confident and he's not, sputtering or anything like I am a little bit right now. Certainly, he's got that confidence, in front of the mic, but he comes across as a bit quieter. Maybe he's not going to throw out some of the statements you would hear from, Rick Bowness, and maybe that works for this team a bit more. But what my point is that he's a very confident coach. He's a very confident in what he does and in the systems that he executes. He's got the trust of the players. They talk, very, very well of him about how he sits down with them and goes through tape. A lot of the, if you were to ask, I think to a man, the defense on the Jets, the impact that Scott Arniel's had on their game since he's arrived, I think everyone would give a positive review, if not glowing review of the work that he's done. So I think he becomes a good choice. I just don't think, he necessarily has that name recognition. And of course, a lot of people are going to go back to that narrative of, well, it's not far from home. It's not new. It's not unique. This guy's, connected with the club. And for some reason, some people disagree with that. And I get that to a certain point. But I do think that he's a guy that, if you don't want to change too much, and we know that this team, over the years has been reluctant to change too much, And to my earlier point, what happens if Scott Arniel isn't your coach? Are you looking for more guys to fill out your staff? So, we'll find out. We'll get some more clarity of that in the coming days and weeks. I don't think we're going to be left in the dark very long about what the Jets' intentions are, whether that be hiring a guy like Scott Arniel and rounding out the coaching staff. There could very well be other changes within that staff too, or if they're going to talk about at least having a search, because that's going to come out regardless. If their plan is to cast that net wider to bring in other names, it's only a matter of time before we find that out. So I think we're going to get an idea pretty soon here on what the Jets' intentions are, and we'll, I guess, react after that.
Well, and listen, I mean, I think we got to acknowledge the fact that, Arniel was a big part of a coaching staff that had some pretty darn good results. And when you look at this team, I mean, playoffs notwithstanding, this is not a situation where you're looking to completely blow it up. I mean, they're coming off arguably their best regular season ever and have made a ton of legitimate, significant progress to where they feel they need to go. And at least, going in the right direction under Bones. But, ask anyone, never mind the time that Rick was away. Scott was a big, big part of that.
Absolutely. Like, as you said, I don't have the record offhand right now, but it was darn good, when Rick was unable to be on the bench. And, Scott handled himself extremely well. The players, again, spoke glowingly about his presence. And I think there is something to be said about continuity for sure. You don't want to change too much after, as you mentioned, a big season. I don't know if that's going to apply to the roster. I think it will be an interesting offseason here. I think there was some recognition by Kevin Cheveldayoff that this team has struggled to take that next step in the playoffs. And while he certainly did some good things over the last calendar year, maybe even arguably his best season as a general manager, there's still that very real reality that this team has been unable, despite several opportunities. Right, this is a club that loves to talk about making the playoffs 5 of the last 6 seasons and all those things. Well, those hard lessons that they've learned in each one of those years, maybe outside of the 2018 run, just haven't really transferred onto success on the ice. But I do think having some consistency with the structure, clearly it worked. I think there's a little bit of concern there that with the playoffs and whether or not it was abandoning the system and the structure, or if it was needing to adjust and not maybe not doing that the right way, or the players unwilling to, who knows. But I do think the bones, pun intended, I guess, are still there. And when you have a staff that knows what they're asking of the players, because that's the fear here, right? I think the Jets' best opportunity to win a cup was last season, or this past season, and I think you want to keep as much momentum as you can, and so that would certainly help in continuing that structure, continuing that game plan with a guy like Scott Arniel, who, while Rick Bowness gets all the credit in a lot of respect, you have to think for a guy who is as defensive minded as Scott Arniel, that he would have a ton of his fingerprints on that structure as well.
Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press with us. We'll carry Bones' press conference announcing officially his retirement from coaching coming up a little later on, live here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Listen, this is going to be the dominant story, but I have to ask you about the weekend. Going to be an interesting garbage bag day out in Toronto today. I'll give the Leafs a lot of credit. The way they came back into that series, they showed a lot to force it to Game 7, get it to overtime. Although I'm sure for Leaf Nation and a lot of those players, it makes the end result that much more painful. And when we talk about here kind of moving forward, building off what this team and organization's accomplished for the last couple of years under Rick Bowness, you do wonder. It will be a fascinating offseason in Toronto after they were dispatched by the Bruins.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is maybe some similar issues that exist here in Winnipeg. An inability to kind of find that necessarily extra level or levels to play in and to succeed in the toughest parts of the season, obviously being the playoffs. I thought, it was obviously a fascinating Game 7. It was clearly close, going to overtime the way it did. I thought Lindholm, what a beautiful play that was. That speaks that tells me that and every player knows the nuances and tendencies of their own arena and where they, where the puck bounces and where some sweet spots are and stuff like that. So I definitely believe that was a planned play. And then to see, to hear Lindholm afterwards say that he's seen David Pastrnak wind up like that many times before. And it was literally just, it seemed like a brain fart between a couple guys, including Morgan Riley and Mitch Marner. Just that split second delayed reaction led to, the game-winning goal. But the crazy part to me, Huss, is that, the narrative, obviously, the narrative is, the thing that teams try to get, rid of. And the Jets are going to, they have a narrative brewing now as a first-round team, much like the Leafs do. But the Leafs had a golden opportunity to change that narrative, and not only change that narrative for themselves, but actually pass it on to the team that in the Boston Bruins that has ultimately given them, or at least very much added fuel to that narrative. Because had the Bruins lost, they would have been the first team in North American sports ever to go up 3-1 in back-to-back seasons and lose in the opening round of the playoffs. And so that crown was so nicely set up for the Maple Leafs to hand it over to the Bruins and to lose out on that opportunity, and to now go into the offseason with, even more questions, likely some major changes there, whether that be on the coaching staff or the players. That's going to continue on when you were one shot away from changing all that.
It does. It is funny when you think about it. I mean, we're talking about overtime in Game 7. I mean, it's one goal. Anything can happen. Totally. The difference in the fact that Boston scored first before Toronto scored first could inevitably blow up the core of the Leafs, send Sheldon Keefe to the unemployment line, and at the same time, save Jim Montgomery from the very dubious title of the guy that blew 3-1 leads in back-to-back years. I mean, the margin for winning and losing is so incredibly thin, yet so many things come out of it, fairly or unfairly, for everybody involved. I guess that's why they're compensated to the level they are.
Well, game of inches, man. And I mean, and we talked about this, and I'll talk about it again, and we'll talk about it, in shows down the line, that if you don't like the narrative, change it. And that needs to be your motivator. I mean, if that's got to be enough motivation in that organization. And, you can apply that to the Winnipeg Jets as well, that, you want people to stop calling you frauds. You want people to stop calling you first round wonders. I mean, change it. Win those important games. And, as fans of those organizations, all you can help is that, the scar tissue builds up enough that you're able to withstand those strikes when they happen. And clearly the Winnipeg Jets and Toronto Maple Leafs were unable to get over their collective humps, and for different reasons, I would argue. But, that doesn't matter to fans. Fans just want to see teams win, want to see teams compete. And I do think that, it's particularly bitter for Keefe and his Maple Leafs, just based on the fact that they were unable to win two critical games, and to force that Game 7 and to do so without their leading scorer in Austin Matthews. I mean, that says something. But at the end of the day, no one's going to be talking about how you managed to win Game 5 and 6 without your superstar. All they'll care about is where you finished up, and ultimately the season will be viewed as a failure.
Hey, now that Dallas has moved on, and we've got the Dallas-Colorado series is going to be absolutely amazing. Where are you at on this one? If you were putting your nickel down on one of these two teams, who's getting it? Because, listen, we all saw how incredible the Colorado Avalanche looked against the Jets. And listen, I think the Stars really showed that that's a team that is going to be an incredibly tough out, losing the first 2 games at home, coming back to win 4 of the next 5 against a team with the championship pedigree of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I think it's, I just, if you just look at the fact that, Colorado ultimately made fairly quick work of the Winnipeg Jets, and Dallas had to play a grueling 7-game series against the defending Stanley Cup champions. I think just in general, there's probably a bit of shell shock for the Dallas Stars. Now, there's probably a lot of relief for them to get past that series, being the number 1 seed, in the West, and playing against, or being the number 1, in the West, and and beating, a team like that, you're going to feel pretty good about yourself, but it's a very quick turnover. And given the rest, I mean, you might see a little bit of rust, from the Colorado Avalanche who've had days, but they've also been able to mend. They've been able to get healthier. They had some injuries hanging into that series, right, with Jonathan Drouin. So there's a lot of, those are key days for guys to get healthier, even the guys who, suffered some bump and bruises. And as we all know, everyone's really going through something. Rick Bowness said, if you don't have an ice pack at the end of every game, you're not trying hard enough. So that rest is going to significantly help. And obviously the top end scoring power, right? I mean, just what we saw when we got to witness it firsthand against the Jets in the first round. Colorado has a ton of weapons. Cale Makar is playing like, Bobby Orr, Nathan McKinnon's playing, like Nathan McKinnon has been for a long time. And, they're dangerous. I just think that Dallas is a great defensive team. Can they do a better job of limiting that speed, of clogging up the middle? And if they can, I mean, what does that look like for Colorado? And can Georgiev or, forget the other guy's name. What is it again? Annunen. Yeah. Sorry. If they need to combine and give them better goaltending, because I think the Dallas Stars have more weapons that are going to be able to make you pay. But if they can shore up their goaltending, I don't know. What we saw from Colorado last series looks a lot like the 2022 team that went all the way.
No one is giving the Vancouver Canucks any sort of chance against the Oilers. I was looking. I think
that's fair.
Really? I mean, what do the Canucks have to do to get like some level of respect? They were the first place team all year. They own the Oilers in the regular season. They just won a series with their third string goaltender. Listen, I mean, I think the Oilers are a favorite for a reason. But, like, I'm not counting out Vancouver like so many others are. I think that, and they've got guys like, JT Miller, Besser looked really good.
Elias Patterson still needs to wake up.
Yeah,
and, he still needs to arrive to the playoffs. So that's a positive thing if you think about it. That it's only a matter of time until he does. I don't know. To me, you look at the way that they changed their game later in the series, how they tried to become a lockdown team, and I just don't know if you'll be able to prevent the waves, and not having Demko, between the pipes, and having that, not as obviously being a little fragile in net, if you will. I know that those guys, Casey DeSmith and others have played better and have helped out, but to me, it's the firepower. And I just think, when it comes to the power play, how relentless Edmonton has been, I think Edmonton has that team, they have everyone, playing well. They made pretty short work of an LA Kings team that, maybe not a lot of people were high on, but are a great defensive team and had played, Edmonton pretty strong defensively in the season, and played strong defensively in the season for the most of the year. But, I just, maybe at the end of this in a couple of weeks or whatever, how long it takes for that series to end, I'm looking back on this and being like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Maybe the Vancouver Canucks do have an extra gear to make things happen, but at the same time, I look at just the way Edmonton is relentless in their forecheck, is relentless in their waves of attack, and and obviously the high end talent of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and so on and so forth. Just their ability to score goals, I think, is going to overwhelm Vancouver, and I don't know if I'm in that camp that believes Edmonton's going to make incredibly short work of it. I think it's going to be a tough series, but I do see the Edmonton Oilers. I feel it's maybe if it's not this year that they win it, I think that they move on to the next round for sure.
Hammer, just before we go, back on the Bomber beat this week. As soon as hockey ends, we just completely pivot, and Bombers looking to get going again to a drive for another Western Division championship. But I guess all eyes are going to be on 85 when rookie camp gets going. Milt's back.
Yeah, I love how Milt was teasing it, but seemed pretty clear about where he was going and what he wanted to do, and it was only a matter of time. I love that about him. He's a showman. I think it'll be a lot of fun to see him out there. He keeps playing down like his fitness level right now and talking about how it's like, playing off like I'm an old man. I'm going to join these young bucks. I can tell you right now, the confidence and, there's no way Milt Stegall is stepping onto a field and being the center of attention, which he's ultimately done for himself by announcing this and all the videos that were before it, is going to get onto that field and not be completely ready for the moment. And you look at him, he's still a physical specimen. I would not be surprised. It might be a reach to suggest he could go out there and play in a game, but I would not put it past playing, a few plays and not looking out of shape or out of talent there. I think it's going to be a fun little thing in rookie camp. I think it's going to bring some energy to some of the rookies, but I have no doubt in my mind that the Turtle Man's going to be ready for it once the derby starts.
I have absolutely no doubt Milt could still play. I mean, if he was with the club and went out and did reps in an exhibition game, he would not look out of place. There's just no way. I mean, we've talked about how he treats his body, the condition that he keeps in. And listen, he knows a thing or two about the game as well. He lives a clean
lifestyle to the point where he doesn't swear, nor does he accept swearing in his presence. So he lives as clean a life as you can live. And again, I think it's going to be fun, and I think it's going to be not so surprising when we see this guy, line up and look like he belongs, because as you mentioned, he probably does, Huss.
Hey, just on the way out, I'm sure you and the fellas at the Freep Sports team have a lot going on for Bomber fans heading into rookie camp and training camp.
Yeah, we'll be there every day. If not me, then one of my colleagues, Taylor Allen, Joshua Frey-Sam, Mike Sawatsky. I got some other stuff in kind of the background right now, so I don't know if I'll be rookie camp guy, but certainly we'll have coverage. And once again, we'll be the lone outlet out there traveling for CFL games, lone English outlet, I should say. I think there's a couple in Quebec since the owner purchased the Alouettes, that owns a bunch of media things or newsrooms, I think. But again, I'm tripping over my words now, but the Free Press will be back on every road game and covering the Bombers the way people expect us to. And I look forward to the season. And, this is another year where, you thought it would have a different vibe to it, perhaps, with just how well last season went and playing against Montreal and even down to that last, whatever. But it repeated from the year before. And now there feels like extremely unfinished business. And you have to wonder at this point, we'll get to that throughout the year, but how much longer can you run it back? The Bombers have done a good job of, filling in pieces around some of that main core, but a lot of that main core, continues to be the main core, and they're not getting any younger. And so, they want to take full advantage of this, and we'll see, Zach Collaros is back for another year, and we'll see if they can, Chris Strevler is back this year. That's going to add a level of excitement to the game and to fans and to the overall season. So I still look at up and down the league, and the Bombers are still very much my opinion, the top favorites to go back to the Grey Cup and ultimately win it, even though they haven't done it the last 2 years.
Howard, great chat, buddy. We'll see you soon, whether it be out at Princess Auto Stadium or on the streets or here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one, and look forward to catching up next week.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for having me on. See you next week.
All right, great stuff with Hammer. We're going to head to Canada Life Center and the Matt Frost Media Center in just a moment for the press conference making Rick Bowness's retirement from coaching official with the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, we just got into a little Bomber talk with Hammer. Ed Tait's going to jump on later on. Rookie camp this week. We're going to talk about Milt coming back and putting the pads on again, which should be fun. And, of course, we're just weeks away from being at Princess Auto Stadium watching the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this year. But if you missed the big news from the Bombers and Princess Auto last week, Canada Day is back, and it's back in a big way. A free outdoor concert festival for all Winnipeggers. That's the hot take alarm there. For all Winnipeggers, Canada Day, July 1st, headlined by Sam Roberts and Doc Walker, completely free. Well, what a great summer we've got shaping up down at Princess Auto Stadium. And, of course, Princess Auto, big sponsors of us, supporters of the Winnipeg Sports Talk, also the Bombers, Gold Eyes, and your Winnipeg Jets. Pop by and see them at Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online anytime, 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. What a gorgeous weekend we had. Stopped by for a couple delicious beers at the Beer Can on the weekend. And gang, if you have never been and checked out the Beer Can before, you've been missing out big time. But good news is spring is here, and that means the Beer Can is open once again, 7 days a week, noon to midnight, down at 1 Granite Way, basically right connected to outdoors of the Granite Curling Club, just off of Osborne, right by the Canada Life building. Winnipeg's #1 outdoor bar right along the river, an absolutely beautiful spot with the best in local beer and amazing food from the world-renowned Cosmos Food Cantina. Get down to the Beer Can today. Whether you're popping by after work in the afternoon or for a few at night, there's no better place to enjoy Manitoba summer than the Beer Can. And maybe you can do that. Obviously, that's some of the fun stuff. You probably got some big to-dos on that list. And if that list involves a fence, gang, you got to get down and give our friends at Wallace & Wallace a call. Of course, they're Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialists since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter did a number on your old one, give them a call. They've got it all: vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. And if you do need a new garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of garage doors. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them online at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road Lawson Crescent off of Kenaston. Shout out to our friends at F Apparel, guys. If you're needing to up your menswear game as we get into spring and summer, get on down to F. They have just an unbelievable selection of custom suits for men. The suits beginning at $400, but they've also got so much more: chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. 15% discount for wedding parties if you're looking to look good on the big day and be able to wear that suit after the fact. And also a great deal right now, special promo for high school grads needing a suit for the big day. F Apparel's at 190 Smith Street downtown. You can also make an appointment at F, that's EPHapparel.com. And shout out to the Gold Eyes playing exhibition games right now, heading down to Cleburne to begin the season later on this week with 6 down in Texas before they meander back. Mark it down, though, gang. May 21st, Gold Eyes opening day at Blue Cross Park. Cannot wait to see the new patio decks. Cannot wait to see the new scoreboard. Get goldeyes.com for more information on the upcoming season, and we'll see you down at the ballpark. Keep an eye out for our WST patio party as well. Details coming soon on that. All right, let's head down to the Matt Frost Media Center. The Rick Bowness press conference is underway.
Everyone, for coming here today, and just want to take a moment to say thanks to Rick, to Judy, on behalf of True North Sports and Entertainment, the Winnipeg Jets, on behalf of all the management, the other coaches, and I see by some of the guys in the room here that are still in town here, some of the players are here as well. Just really want to thank Rick for the 2 years that he came and gave us here. It's kind of poetic, I guess, in a way, to have him getting his first coaching job in the National Hockey League here in Winnipeg and coming full circle and having the opportunity to go out on a note that he did. I'd like to congratulate him on a wonderful career, All-Star Game appearance this year, and to culminate it with being honored as being one of the 3 candidates for the Jack Adams, and again, all the things in the middle. When I got a chance to read the press conference, the press release about the event here, is what an accomplished career. But I get to know that working with him, the career is second to the person that he really is and what he's brought to the game. So thanks very much, Rick. Thanks very much, Judy, the whole entire family. And I'll turn it over to Rick.
Yeah, well, thank you. You talked me out of retirement 2 years ago, man. Judy and I are all set to call it a day then. But if I was going to come back to coaching, I couldn't have picked a better place to come back to and to finish my career with. There's a big draw here, obviously, because of our previous experience here. We know the people that run the organization are fantastic people. This is a great organization, and it's a great city to play hockey in. That I knew. And we have a tremendous, passionate following here, and so I couldn't have picked a better place to come back to and to finish my career. I've got great players. I've been fortunate to have a great coaching staff, and all the accolades about the All-Star game and the nomination. Man, it's the players and it's the coaches that got me there. And like I said a couple of times, how many coaches can take the month of November off and still be where we are? The coaches and the players deserve all the credit for that. But yeah, it's been my pleasure to come back. It's been a real honor for me to coach the Winnipeg Jets again.
Yeah, we'll move to questions. Hopefully we get the microphones to be a little louder so we can hear the answers. But please, there's no wireless mic, so please just raise your voices if you could. Start with Paul in the front.
Rick, take us through the decision from when you first had an inkling to when you knew.
Well, honestly, it's walking off the ice after Tuesday night. It is. I didn't like me. I didn't like the way our team played, which is on me. So I was unhappy with myself, unhappy that we had lost, and that bothered me. But as I was standing there and I was looking around, it dawned on me. Coaches have always told me, and I've talked to the older coaches, older than me, and they've always said, you'll know it's time. And when I was looking around and I wasn't happy with the job I had done, and it just hit me then, like, it's time. No, I would say is more of a disappointed that I didn't take that team further.
Words last week, talking about you know what you want. We need to meet with Kevin and Mark, and you'll let us know. How much of all that included a succession plan?
Well, so yeah, when I'm walking off the ice, I told the coaches an hour later that I'm done. I'm finished. I'm going to retire. And they're all looking at me. You sure? you want to take some time on this? But I knew. I knew in my heart it was time. And I think a lot of it goes back to a couple of years ago that we were, Judy and I have always talked about this for 7 years since we left Tampa. When I left Tampa, I had a couple of offers of 3 or 4 year contracts at other teams. I went to Dallas on a 1 year deal. Loved Jimmy Nill, trusted Jimmy Nill. They had Ben Bishop in the net, and I wanted to see if I wanted to keep going. And I loved my time in Dallas, so we've kept going. But there comes a time, and it just right now just seems to be like the time.
Go ahead, John.
Personal factors play into your decision, your health, Judy's health, going back to the start of last season?
Oh, quite a bit. I mean, listen, like I said at the time, those are life-changing moments. They are. And I'm still dealing with some minor issues that I've got to get resolved. The last thing I wanted to happen was to me to come to Chevy and Chipper in November and say, I can't do this anymore. Like, there was no way I was going to let that happen. So there's some issues that we got to get fixed, and they'll be fixed. But there was no way I was going to... If I was feeling it that night, there was no way I was going to get into the season and then say, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I knew then that, okay, I got to take some time here.
Was there any sense of, after this feeling that you described on Tuesday night, was there any sense of unfinished business that sort of crept back into perhaps way?
I wouldn't say, no, I'm just, again, disappointed that I didn't get this team further. That's my biggest disappointment, and something I'm going to have to live with.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Finally getting you, Kelly. Usually you're the first man. It's unreal. Like, where's the respect here? Let's go.
Just in terms of, you mentioned you talked to the coaches an hour later. Did you talk to any of the players, or are they hearing this for the first time today?
No, I called a few of the players last night that I could. I didn't want them to see it on the email. So I didn't call every player, no. I was going to call Mason Appleton, but he's busy with a new baby, so I didn't want to disturb that household. I saw Vladdy. I called Adam and a couple of the other. I called the captains and Bucky. I didn't get to call everybody, no. But I didn't want them to hear about it from somebody else. It had to come from me.
It sounds like, this was a decision that was going to change your mind, but did people try to change your mind? Whether it's talking with you or the family or Mark.
Oh, listen, my kids are saying, come on, Dad, you can go for 50 years here. Let's go. Right? And that's easy for you to say, right? No, honestly, they know me, and they know that, when I explain everything to them, they know it's time. Right. So, I'm going to be watching games. I'll be calling the players, bugging them all the time and bugging the coaches. So that's all part of it. I'm not going very far. Right. The TV's going to be right there and we'll be watching the games. It's my life. It's the only thing I know. I'm not smart enough to do anything else. So it's not like I'm going to go into anything else. Hockey's my life. Hockey's what I know. Well, you go ahead.
If you had gone a round or two deeper, would we still having this conversation today?
I don't.
Mainly based on what happened.
I probably yes and no, but I think it goes back to some of the health issues I got to get fixed. So I think it goes back to that.
Go ahead, Sean.
Rick, when it comes to pulling off a 4-decade career as a coach.
5. Just well, you're going to say it's going to be 5.
Yeah.
I'll age myself.
Now, those are my songs. What does it take as far as support from your kids, your wife, colleagues, players? What does it take to pull off a career like that?
Everything. Listen, I'm not going anywhere without Judy's support. Like, as a player, we got bounced around. As a coach, we bounced around. You have those conversations with your family. Like, is it time to do something else? And Judy supported this whole thing. Like, we've been together since we were 16 years old, right? So she'd been through the whole ride, right? So she knows. And when I keep telling people this, she's going to miss it more than me. Right? When I was walking off the ice the other night, I turned to look at her. She's got the towel going and everything, so she's going to miss it more than I would. But no, it's just a ride that we've. It's like Adam. Like you grow up in the game. That's all you know. Hockey is all we know as a family. So we'd run into people at home in the summer like, how do you do this? But it's the only life our kids knew. Is right. Dad's playing, dad's coaching. We're moving again. And that was a normal life to them. Right. So, but they get it. They understand there comes a time and they know we've talked about this for a while. Dad's going to call it a day here soon. So, but again, they'd love me to go for 50 years. So then I said, when does it stop then?
You've talked about the lifestyle that hockey has afforded you. I wonder if just a kind of a global look at it, if you could kind of summarize beyond that what hockey has given you in your life.
Tremendous friendships. I'm hearing today from guys I played with, and that's a long time ago, right? So, and from all over the world. Just people you coached, they're over in Europe, and I'm getting texts from them. So, it's just it's the friendships and the people you meet. Hockey people are great people, and they are. And we have our own little culture, our own little world, and that separates us from a lot of people. People don't understand what we go through, but we all understand what we go through.
Just talked about feeling disappointed of where things ended with the team, but I wonder when you kind of sit back and know that it's the end. What are some of the kind of prevailing emotions that really have kind of flashed up since you made this decision?
Well, again, it's the game. Listen, when I leave, just I just want to be remembered that it's your fault. I just love the game, right? And I respected the game. I love this league. I respect the league. I hope over my career that it's not winning the Stanley Cup. It's always been important, but over the years, as you age, you hope you have an impact on your players' lives, off the ice, on the ice. And that's been more important to me over the last 10 years. I've had some runs at the Stanley Cup, and things happen that are out of your control with injuries and everything. And then you lose the cup and okay, things happen out of your control. What is in your control every day is the impact that you can have on your players on and off the ice. That is within a coach's control. And I've always taken great pride in that. After a while, after you get close to the cup, you lose and you say, God, we're healthy. We could have won that. Well, that's out of your control. As a coach, you can control what you do, how you deal with the players every day. And that's helping them on the ice. And you hope that you teach them some life lessons along the way as well.
Ken, did you have one?
Yeah, Kevin, what's Rick's last organization?
Well, I think there's many things. I think that when you think of Rick's tenure here with us, that could come to mind. But obviously, I was joking with Judy here a little while ago. We were talking about, and with Bones a couple of times as well, is that they probably dreaded, seeing my number pop up on the phone and pulling them out of retirement. But maybe he thought we were joking at first, and maybe but we asked them to put their lives on hold to come here to Winnipeg to help. Give us, this group, a different voice, a different path, some strong structure. And when just listening to Rick talk here right now, like those are the things that, being around Rick, that, you sit and you think about each and every day. I think I have a greater appreciation, for the National Hockey League and what it means to be in the National Hockey League each and every day, for being around Rick, and how he carried himself and what he talked about, and just the presence that he brings and to see, to be able to watch him interact with the players, to see him how he communicated with the players, to see him how he would deliver hard news, to players that wasn't, something that was going to be popular, and just his compassion and his directness. But, one thing that Bones always, was and is he's been authentic. And when it came to this process here right now, and when we talked about it, for the first time, and then, Rick and I had a brief conversation, I think it was even yesterday, is his thoughts were turned towards more from an organization standpoint. Like he's always putting the organization or the players or other people ahead of himself. And I said to him, it would be very selfish for me to sit here and think that you are being selfish without telling you, Bones, that you owe this to yourself. But again, just a great hockey coach, and an even better person. Just so thankful that he picked up my phone that day that we called a couple of years ago.
Hey, you took me off the golf course.
I did. It was to the point though too, where I made the phone call, left the message, and like it took a little while for him to get back. We ended up having to reach out to his son and say, like, is your dad going to give us a call or what?
Well, it's like I said the other day, we had the issues that were going on before we got here had to be addressed. They did. I didn't like the things that people were talking about, the Winnipeg Jets. That bothered me, even though I wasn't even working here. So we did have to change the culture. We did. And you have to take some hard strides to do that. You have to take some very unpopular strides, and they were, and that's okay. You got to make some tough decisions. You make them. We had to give the team a more consistent identity so that it could stay in the playoffs year after year. And I think we've done that for the most part. And we got the team back in the playoffs, which was the big objective. Okay. Now, are we happy that where we are with the playoffs? Absolutely not. There's more to give. This team is better than what we saw in the playoffs. So that's on me. So, yeah, we had to do those things, but the other things don't fall into place until you get the culture all straightened out. Once that's in place and the players are all in, and they're in there every day, and you can see the camaraderie, okay, we've made progress there. Then you see the team game that I talk an awful lot about when it's on, how good it looked. right? And then the players felt good about that team game, and this is how we're going to win. We came up short of all of our objectives, and the players are just as disappointed as all of us are, and they are. They're the ones that have to go out there every night and work and compete, take hits, block shots. They're the ones paying the price, so they're disappointed as well. But there's a growth in that. You take a positive out of that. That okay, we're better than this, right? Now last year at the end of the year, oh my God, we got to straighten out some more things, and they did by the time training camp came along. This summer they'll grow again, and they will, and they'll be a better team for it next year.
Go ahead, Paul, in the back.
Rick, as you pass through the emotional side of this, thought about what you want to do in retirement, and what might excite you about that? Not to be flippant, but you're thinking about a new fishing rod or a new driver? Or...
I'm not much of a fisherman, Paul. I go down, we live on the lake, and I cast, and I'm just watching the sunset. I don't care if I catch a fish. I'm a golfer. I'm going to spend a lot of time with the grandkids. Brendan's going to be 4 in June. Blake will be 1 in July. We want to spend a lot of time with them. But again, I'm going to stay around, man. I'm not dying, man. I'm just retired. I'm going to be around.
Involved in the game at all?
Sure.
Advisory role or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll call you when you right when you screw up.
Go ahead over here.
I missed it.
What do you prefer as a player or coach with the job?
Listen, there's nothing better than as a player, and I tell them play as long as you can, man. Because once you quit, you're done. Like I quit at 28, only because they wanted me to come up here as an assistant coach. Right, so that's young to retire. I know I was playing in the minors at the time, but it was in November of '83. They fired Tommy Watt. Barry Long was taking over. They wanted me to come up and be an assistant coach. I figured, okay, I'm 28. If it doesn't work out, I'll go back and play a few more years, right? But it's worked out that fine too. But as a player, man, you want to play as long as you can. You do, because when you're done, you're done, and you'll always miss playing. I love the coaching. I was very fortunate to be a player one day and the very next day be an assistant coach in this league. So I've been very fortunate. It's a different route, there's no question. But I love playing, but I love coaching too. So it's the best thing. If you can't be a player, coach, because it keeps you in the room, keeps you behind the bench, it keeps you in the action, and that's what we all love.
There's a lot of francophones fans of the Jets. You have word for them in French?
I don't understand. I can't hear you.
Anything in French?
In French? No, I wish I could. I used to. I can't say anything more. I'll call Alain Vigneault and he'll help me out again.
Go ahead, Judy.
You said that you're going to stay involved in the game. Would you consider kind of a consulting role, or is that something you've been on?
No, we haven't even gone there. No, it's too early for that. But yeah, I'll be around.
How much input might you have in this succession?
We haven't even gone near that. That's like Chevy and Chipper, Larry and Zinger. They'll take care of all that.
John, did you have another one?
Yeah, sorry, to that end, Kevin, would you call on Rick for inputs, because he's laid the foundation for a new direction for this club, to help identify the successor?
Well, one of the things that I think are the benefits of having gone through, even the coaching search when, we ultimately found Bones, was that, you learn and you grow. So it would be crazy for me, not to tap into not only Bones's, personal knowledge, professional knowledge, but it's personal knowledge. And over the course of time, you benefit by watching coaches make decisions, or, coaches coach or coaches teach. But I've benefited with gaining a closer personal relationship and a friendship with again, with Rick, and that's a special thing. So, there's Rick, there's not a guy that I don't think that Rick probably hasn't met, coached, or played with, over the period of time here, and I think they all say the same thing. So he's a wealth of knowledge, on the ice, off the ice, and a great friend that definitely is going to be seeing my number pop up on his phone over the course of the years.
Murat, go ahead.
Rick, I think one thing that we noticed a lot of over the last couple of years was you making time for your assistants and associates to elevate them. Like even in Denver, they were running a lot of the drills. You gave them a lot of chances to do media and all that sort of thing. So when you think about legacy, how important is their growth, and how important was that from the day you got here?
That was very important for me. Listen, I was an assistant coach for a long time, and I always wanted to feel valuable. I always wanted to feel my opinion mattered. I always wanted to run the drills. I wanted to feel part of it. I know there's been head coaches in this league, and they do every meeting, they do every practices, they do everything. I couldn't work for a guy like that. So, there's no way I'd ever coach like that. If I'm going to hire these people, that means they're good coaches. They are. That means also just as important, they're good people and they're good communicators. And then this staff was outstanding that way. So, they deserved a lot of leeway and they earned it. They had my respect and they had my trust. And if we didn't like something, we'd always talk about it as a staff after. But again, being an assistant coach and associate coach in this league for a long time, you want to feel valued. You want to feel that your opinion matters. Now, there may be different opinions, and the head coach ultimately has to make that final call. But you have to get their opinion. I wouldn't have hired them if they weren't respected as a coaching and their communication skills, and those guys all did a fantastic job. Again, and so when I have to take a month off, it's just smooth. They just took over. I missed a couple of games with some things. They smooth it. They took over. They're good hockey people, they're good hockey coaches, and they're very, very good people.
Kevin, one of the things I think we'll talk about is how much growth the team had in these last 2 years. Rick talked about cultural growth, about leadership, all of these things. It almost seems like it makes this next step on your part maybe a little bit more delicate to consolidate all of that. So what qualities might you hope for to address to make sure that, what Rick has built gets pushed to the next level?
Well, there's no question that you're not replacing Rick Bowness. You're not replaced. There's one of him, and I think that every time you get into a situation like this, you want to make sure that the next person can be their own selves as well. This isn't following Rick Bowness and all the great work that he did. This is establishing whoever that next person is from that day moving forward. But I think it does take the special acknowledgement to understand the different levels of foundations that have been put in place here. And one of the things, I guess it kind of goes back to the legacy question here that I'm extremely, extremely proud of, is having the conversations with Bones and the coaching staff and their passion for wanting Adam Lowry to become captain and what that embodies, what that will embody in a Winnipeg Jet and that moving forward. Those are things that, again, are going to stick out, for me, and certainly as we evolve and move forward here. But, and it goes even back to the exit meetings here right now, when we talk to the players, that feeling of not being satisfied, that came from the coaches and came from the players that, we need to go home. We need to get 10% better. We need to get 5% better, whatever percent better, work on your deficiencies, work on that. That came from the leadership group. That was guys like Scheif and JMO and Helly and obviously Laus, but those are the kind of things that doesn't just happen. It's something that the coaches instill, and you want that next person to, pick up on their own ways, but obviously, understanding that, we need to continue what was being built here.
Okay, Bartley and then Freezer, and then we'll wrap it up here. Go ahead, Bartley.
What aspect of coaching professional hockey in 2024, if you're most surprised Rick Bowness in 1980?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Say that again.
What aspect of coaching in 2024 would most surprise you back in 1980?
Back in 1980?
Well, younger Rick Bowness.
What aspect?
Younger?
Yeah.
Almost like, what's the difference between now versus the younger Rick Bowness coaching?
I'm a lot calmer. I am. Used to do some crazy things. Don't you guys laugh over there. No, there's been a ton of changes in the game, and you have to grow with it. So you're coaching in the 80s, which I did, a whole lot different than coaching today. In a lot of those teams in the 80s, guys had played in the minors. They understood the game a little bit better. They weren't force-fed into the National Hockey League. Over the last 5 decades, the kids are coming in now, and they need a lot more coaching. They need a lot more of your time, and how you deal with them is so your words. Your tone is just about as important as the words you use today, more so the tone today than before. They're not as thick-skinned. and you got to be patient with them, which is fine. And that's what coaching in today is. So there's a huge difference between how I coached in the 80s when don't forget, I was a player on a Tuesday, and a Wednesday I'm an assistant coach. I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm going to bring some passion to the game, and we'll work from there. But now it's a lot more involved. There's a lot more teaching involved. There's a lot more coaching involved, and there's a lot more patience involved. And you have to be able to communicate with your players. And again, some of these conversations they don't want to hear, right? They don't. But you can't be afraid to have those conversations, and you just got to get things on the table and you work from that. But there's a huge difference in the game today, so much faster, so much better than it was in the 80s. The 90s, we slowed the game down to a crawl. So the game is right now is in great shape. It's fast. It's exciting. The league's in great shape, but there's a big difference between how coaches coach today than when we did back then, back in the day.
Do you ever think you're too honest?
You have to be true to yourself, man. That's the biggest thing. You got to be true to yourself, right? So, my goal was never to be the best coach in the league. My goal was to be the best coach I could be. And to be that, you've got to be honest with yourself. So I have to be honest with myself. Again, if they don't like hearing it, deal with it. Right? Deal with it. You know how hard it is to win a Stanley Cup? You have to have thick skin, right? You got to be tough. You got to be mentally tough to get there. So if it toughens them up a little bit, that's fine too. But more important, as a coach, you got to be honest to yourself. You got to be true to yourself, and you got to do things your way.
Any regrets?
No.
I've
done some dumb things, but you learn.
Yeah, not much really right now. Obviously, this is Rick's day here. I think that he's earned that kind of respect and then that kind of thing. Obviously, this is fresh for us as well. We Bones and I think first talked on Friday. Had another conversation yesterday as well, and we'll circle around with our staff and certainly get at that process.
Okay, everybody, I thank you very much for coming. On behalf of the organization, I'd like to thank Rick, of course, for all his service and his years in the National Hockey League, but particularly to the Winnipeg Jets. So thank you to Rick. Thank you to Chevy. Thank you to all of you guys for coming. Adam Lowry and Scott Arneal.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if there was ever a time to hoist one and cheers somebody with a 1919 or a generic from Little Brown Jug, it's today with Rick Bowness. I mean, what an absolute beauty he was. And, I think he goes out, with that sort of the passion, the personality, the charisma that endeared him so much to Winnipeg fans. I'll tell you what, Reem, it is somewhat sad. I mean, we're going to have to put this, the Bones chain up in, WST Hall of Fame or something like that. Shout out to Danimal that made these last year. But, I mean, what an impact Rick's had here on the city, on the team, the organization, and the fan base. And, still honest, very disappointed with what happened in the playoffs. And, at that point knew that it was time to go. Interesting to find out that, he told the coaches an hour after the game that that was it for him. But he will always be a favorite here in the Peg. And I know Bruce was mentioning that at some point we'll maybe, I can't even imagine how amazing it would be just to talk hockey and the stories of Rick's career with him. And we'll endeavor to do that at some point in the future on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We are going to get to the Bombers. Ed Tait's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. Do want to thank the gang at Royal Sports for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And as we move sort of from hockey season into football season. Don't forget, soccer is back, baseball, softball, running, tennis. Royal Sports has it all there. Not to mention an amazing selection of bikes for all ages. So, while you're getting your favorite fan gear, getting ready for Bomber season, don't forget to get outside and make the most of the spring and summer with Royal Sports 750 Pembina Highway. And you can also follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We got game one tonight between the Panthers and the Bruins. And despite the Jets being out, Boston Pizza is still your playoff headquarters. They got the brand new playoff menu right now featuring wing flights, the new Sicilian square footer pizza, jalapeno popper dip, and pretty darn good grand prize as well when you head down there. A grand prize trip for two to the Stanley Cup final. So while you might not be putting the whites on, the best place to get together with your gang for Stanley Cup playoff action is your local Boston Pizza. And, what is it today? Today is the 6th. We're 2 weeks away from opening day at Assiniboia Downs. Cannot wait for it. A great chat with Kirk Contois. Just a touch, didn't win the Derby. We did get the even money, though, on Sierra Leone to be in the top 3, so appreciate Kirk for that. But we cannot wait to get out to the track. Find out more on the upcoming season at asdowns.com. You might want to make a reservation for an upcoming night of live racing to be in the dining room and take advantage of that amazing prime rib buffet. But again, asdowns.com, and stay tuned to WST for information on a couple contests and a WST night out at the track this year as well. Ed Tait's joining us right away, but I do want to hit the why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp. And they're, of course, over at Waverly and McGillivray. And there'll be plenty of time to talk about the next coach of the Winnipeg Jets, who that will be, candidates, how that's moving forward. But today, I'll put this why not question out to everyone and answer in chat. What do you think the most important contribution that Rick Bowness leaves here with the club? Maybe in a lot of ways what Bones' legacy will be here in Winnipeg with the Winnipeg Jets. Let us know in the chat. And of course, you can always hit us up if you're listening on the podcast with your thoughts on that. Hit us up over on all of our social channels at Sports Talk WPG. We'll get to the Breezy Bend Golf Report. Big day for Canadian golf and the Coolbet lines in a minute. But let's get ready for football season. Timing is perfect, where everyone was disappointed and depressed that the Jets were done. Well, guess what? The Bombers are back this week. We got rookie camp, and one of the oldest rookies around going to be taken to the field as well. Let's bring in our pal Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com down at Princess Auto Stadium joining us now. Eddie, great to have you back on the program. How are you? We're doing well. We just had a lot of fun listening to Rick's press conference there. As someone that covered hockey for a long time and obviously focusing on football, but being part of the sports community for so long, Ed, you just think of, I don't know if anyone has a bad word to say about the guy. And even on the way out, still has just an incredible passion for the game and really leaves a lasting legacy, not just on the hockey team, but I think this community.
Yeah, he's such a classy dude, right? I think he represented the Jets really well and helped change the culture there. I know I'm just parroting what a lot of other people that are way closer to the team have said. I'm happy that he made the decision on his terms, right? He's the guy that's up for the Coach of the Year award. What a way that would be to go out just to be a finalist that says something. But you could tell I watched part of the press conference that when he says he knows it's time, it's time. And it's really, I'm not on the Jets beat anymore, but it really opens up an intriguing kind of next few weeks, right? When they look for their new guy, whoever that might be. Maybe I missed it if they've decided on who they're going to name, but there's some interesting names out there. That's for sure that people will be talking about. No doubt about it. Well, from the pucks to the pigskin,
We got rookie camp coming up. It's been a busy couple of weeks with the draft, but let me ask you, I mean, you're there in the building every day. Speaking of coaches, how's Osh doing, and how busy are the fellas getting ready to get back to work for another season?
It started to get, it can be a bit of a ghost town here sometimes in the winter. People just get busy at different times. Last week was quite busy leading up to the draft. And I think that's always the sign that things start to heat up. A lot of the rookies are arriving today. I know our football ops people are over getting them set up at the dorm here at the U of M. So there's going to be over on Sunday when the veterans are on the field, there'll be over 100 guys at camp. So rookie camp's fun. It's kind of gets you a bit of a preview to the main camp, but I love this time of year because everything seems new and fresh, and everybody across the league thinks they got a chance to win the Grey Cup, right? Nobody's played a game yet. So it's a fun time of year, though. You start to see how teams piece together.
Well, I mean, probably everyone going there thinks or believes they've got a chance at cracking the roster and being a player for the Bombers. Even Milt Stiegel, tell us about. Milt has been teasing this for the last couple of weeks on social media, and the Bombers announced it today. The Turtle Man is back and will be participating in rookie camp. What have you talked to Milt at all? What's he up to, and how's this all going to go?
Yeah, he did a media Zoom call about probably when you were just going on the air, Huss. He's 54 years old, and if you know Milt, he had the 6 guarantees in life, and 2 of them he would always be cute in the face and thin in the waist. So he's still in shape. He says he is. He still works out religiously. I don't doubt that at all. If you've seen him on TV, he doesn't have the Molson muscle like I do around the midsection. So I'm intrigued by it. It's kind of fun, right? We are in the entertainment business, and to get a guy like Milt that's on TSN and is the all-time touchdown leader, to have him out here for one day of training camp, it'll be fun. I know he was a little bit concerned about maybe getting in the way of some of the rookies that are, busting their hump. They've only got 3 days of rookie camp to try to make an impression, but I'm sure that Coach O'Shea and his staff will have it set up so that they can get their work in without Milt being too much of a distraction. But let's face it, when the minute 85 steps onto the field on Wednesday morning for the first day of rookie camp, there's going to be a lot more eyeballs and cameras focused on him than there would have been normally on a day one of a rookie camp.
I still think that he can play. I still think, I mean, with that experience and the level of conditioning that Milt has, I honestly, I'm going to go on the record, I don't think he's going to look like a 54-year-old dude out there. I don't think he'll look out of place at all.
Well, I mean, look, I wouldn't bet against him either. He referred to it a couple times today as a bucket list item for him. And I asked him, a lot of people, when they retire, they want to, go on a hot air balloon or golf Pebble Beach or something. This guy, he said that he wants to wake up Thursday morning sore, which, I mean, I'm sorry. I pass on all of that. I get sore just watching these guys sometimes. So that's a weird bucket list, Milt. I got to tell you, I can think of a lot of other things that I'd rather do than put myself through something like that. But it's going to be cool because he's going to be on the player meetings too. Like, he's not just going to step on the field for practice. And if I'm a rookie, if you're paying attention, if I'm a rookie receiver, man, I'm watching every move he makes, and I'm going to bug him on everything from the waggle, how to set up a DB. I'm watching every step he takes from the moment I get into the building to the end of the day, because it sounds like it's just going to be a one-day thing. But I'll tell you what, if you could learn from somebody, I would be soaking up as much as I could from 85.
Okay, so the plan is for it to be a one-day thing. What are the chances that Milt goes through everything that day and says, you know what, I still got it. See you tomorrow morning.
I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think Milt wants that, and I don't think the coaching staff, let's be honest, they sign a bunch of guys in the offseason. There's a ton of receivers coming into camp. There's a ton of DBs that they need to evaluate. It's a cool story, but I think Milt knows as much as anybody. And he said this today. He thought that maybe out of 1 or 2 routes of 30, he might be able to beat a DB, but it's not just doing it for a whole day. It's waking up on Thursday morning sore and trying to do it again. I think Milt wants to stay on TV. But it's pretty cool that he's getting the opportunity to do this. He said his wife told him he's crazy for even thinking about it, and now she still thinks he's crazy for following up with it.
Well, I will go on the record saying that there is a non-zero chance that Milt decides, maybe we'll come back and go through the rigors another day or two. Anyways, it's going to be it's going to add a lot to the first day of rookie camp. But as we know, that camp is all about, getting a first look at so many new players to the organization. There was so much going on last week with the playoffs, and the draft happened that same night. We haven't caught up in the last few days. Eddie, if you can, let's go back to last week and fill us in on maybe the highlights of the class of 2024 for the Blue and Gold.
Yeah,
as well as the trade that they made.
Yeah, it was an interesting night. It started off with that, Huss. You're right. So they had initially had the 8th pick in the first round, and they traded down with Calgary. They traded the 8th and 28th pick to get 13 and 14. So it ended up that in the second round, they had 13, 14, 17, and 20. So 4 picks, not back to back, but in there. And they think that they moved down because they thought the difference between 8 and 13 wasn't dramatic, and you could add another pick in the top 20. And it's a really deep draft. That's what everybody said. So to have 4 picks in the top 20 made sense for them to move down. Their first pick, I'm just going through, cheating off my notes here, Huss, is a receiver, Kevin Clercius from UConn, a kid from Montreal. If you look at his stats with the Huskies, they don't blow you away at all, but he's a physical guy, ran really well at the combine here in Winnipeg, and they think he could take on some of that dirty work that Rasheed Bailey did so effectively. The blocking down on a defensive end and blocking downfield for other receivers to help them get open. So that was their first pick. Their second pick, they didn't have a fullback, right? Because they cut Damian Jackson in the offseason, and then Mike Miller, we didn't see him play at all last year. So they took a running back out of Delaware State, Michael Chris Ike, and he must have some skill because is that it? I'm done?
That was the hot take alarm. It's going off a little bit too much today.
So Michael Chris Ike from Delaware State, he could play fullback. He's a guy that's got kind of Brady Oliveira's body type. There's something about him because the New York Jets invited him to their rookie minicamp, which just happened on the weekend. I'm not sure what's his status now, if he's still en route to Winnipeg or if he's staying with the Jets. I have to double check that. Their third pick in the second round was this big offensive lineman, Gabe Wallace. And
this guy's a monster.
Yeah, 6'6", 344. There's a really cool photo that he tweeted out or put on his Instagram page. He put on his Instagram page about him with Adam Bighill when Adam was with the BC Lions. So, he's an intriguing guy because they've got some space on their offensive line, and he's a good prospect to back up. And then their last pick in the second round was Kyle Sampson, a defensive tackle from UBC, and they're loaded at defensive tackle. So that was a bit of a head scratcher for some people, but it's a guy that gives them more depth with Jake Thomas, Cam Lawson. Tanner Schmeckel played here last year a bit. Colin Cornelison from the Bisons is coming back after his 1 year. So, that's their first picks. They went deeper too. The next interesting one to me was Giovanni Manu, who was drafted by the Detroit Lions last weekend. The Bombers took him in the 5th round, 46th overall. Now you talk about big. This guy's 6'8", 340, and he ran a 5.03 in the 40 at his UBC Pro Day. Just blew everybody up with his testing, and that's where I think he caught the eyes from the Lions, the Detroit Lions, and they picked him. So if he was ever to come back to the CFL, man, that's a steal for the Bombers as a 5th rounder. A.K. Gazama, the Bison receiver, went in the 6th round.
We had him on, Ed. We had him on the program
Great
actually
story.
Just before the Combine.
Yeah.
He blew everybody away. He was, just so polished. His story is incredible. A local guy. And I asked him at that point, what would you think if the hometown team picked you? And he had a big smile on his face. He would love that, and now he gets that opportunity. And I mean, we'll see what happens. He's going to be given an opportunity to come out and, whether that's on the team, the practice squad, whatever, for the first year. The potential of carrying on an incredible legacy of recent hometown players playing at Princess Auto Stadium for the Bombers.
At the Combine in March, April there at the Winnipeg Soccer Federation North there, he had his moments. He's smaller. He's 5'9", 158, but he had his moments at the Combine. He is that deep threat. There might be an opening in the kick return game Janarian Grant hasn't been re-signed. I'm not sure how much AK has done of that with the Bisons, but if I'm him, I'm putting my hand up to volunteer for that when rookie camp starts. There's going to be a ton of candidates for that role too. So it will be very, very interesting to see what he looks like. Just a great story for him, as you said, Hassan. It'll be fun for him to have 3-4 days into next week with his family being able to come and maybe check him out at training camp here too. Hey, I've just been warned. The bell went off in your place that we're having a fire alarm test at 3:00. So I'm just giving you the heads up, Huss.
It's happening everywhere apparently today. I'm not sure what is going on with this day. Well, let's get to, obviously camp, maybe for fans, just fill us in on the schedule as far as the next sort of week or so going into main camp, as well as any opportunities for fans to come down and check it out.
Yeah, so Wednesday, the rookie camp starts. They'll be on the field Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, and then that's the end of rookie camp. That's going to be mostly at the Bison soccer field, or the field right beside the soccer complex down the street from here, because the turf's still going in here. I think they were painting the lines on today. And then Saturday is the medical day, so there's nothing going on around here. Well, there is, but nothing on field stuff. Sunday morning is the opening of main camp, and then we're right into it, right? The Bombers play their first preseason game on Victoria Day, Monday, in Saskatchewan. So we've always talked about this. The training camps don't last very long. If you're a rookie, you got 3 sessions guaranteed to stand out, and then they'll make some cuts on Saturday. They've got to shave the roster down a little bit. And some guys will cut themselves, right? There's always somebody that shows up out of shape or is late or doesn't come at all. And then next on Sunday, we're right into it. And it's an interesting camp compared to other years, Huss, because there's been some change, right? This is still a dominant team, still a team with a lot of recognizable faces, but Jamarcus Hardrick is gone. That opens up a spot at right tackle. No Jeff Gray at left guard. Jackson Jeffcoat retired, so there's a job at defensive end. Ricky Walker didn't come back, so there's a job maybe at defensive tackle, although they really like Miles Fox. Demario Houston has moved on to Calgary, so there's a corner job open. Tyrell Ford came back from the NFL, so there's a possibility of starting a Canadian at corner. No Janarian Grant. So, there'll be a change there in the return game. Those kind of storylines are what makes camp interesting, right? If it's the same crew running it back all the time, it could get a little vanilla.
Eddie, I think back to, was this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the Bombers brought in, there was a major question mark as to, who the DBs were going to be. And, we had Alford, a bunch of guys that came in and all of a sudden emerged as, well, Alford ended up going back to the National Football League and turning into a pretty good NFL player. But is there a particular spot, position-wise, that is of particular intrigue to you, just as far as how many players are coming in to compete for that? And, essentially either having lost a player due to retirement, trade, whatever, that there's a real opening for players to not just be on the club, but potentially play an important role like in a starting lineup.
Yeah, you mentioned D. Alford. That same year, they found Dietrich Nichols, who's turned out to be a star. D. Alford's with the Atlanta Falcons. The scouting staff has a lot of trust with the coaches here that they'll find some more people like that. Tyreek McGee is a guy to keep an eye on. He was with the Bombers last year. He's a corner, played at Georgia, so you're pretty good if you get to get on the field with the Bulldogs. That's a guy to keep an eye on. I mentioned Ford because the secondary's got some jobs. And I know a lot of people, I don't watch the O-line really, really closely, but I'm really intrigued to see how they replace Hardrick. And they've got a collection of American tackles that look massive, including Larnell Coleman, who I think was a draft pick of the Miami Dolphins. So that's a big hole to fill, both literally and figuratively, right? Because Ardrick was a massive man, but a massive part of the leadership group, and a big fan favorite. So how do you replace that? And then with Rashid Bailey gone, maybe there's another Dalton Schoen that emerges, right? Remember in his first few days of rookie camp, he popped off the page instantly. And so again, opportunity opens doors for people, and it's going to be really fun to see in the next few days who starts to make an impression.
Ed, cannot wait for the season. It's just amazing. It's starting right now, and there's an exhibition game in May. I'm not sure whether there's ever been a May game before, but we don't have to wait that long to get out to Princess Auto Stadium to see the blue and gold.
No, it's fun. It's I don't know how they do it in the NFL. The people that cover the NFL with those OTAs and rookie mini camp and this mini camp, and then that's all before main camp, which is a couple of months long. It seems like, or they get in there in July and don't finish until Labor Day. I know they're talking about cutting the number of preseason games down there and following the CFL model and getting to 17 and 18 regular season games. I don't know how those guys down there cover it, because I'll tell you what, by next Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be thinking, man, can we bring on the first preseason game? Because we need something else to write about.
Well, I know there'll be lots of good stuff at bluebombers.com. Rookie camp, training camp, and much more. And hopefully we can do this again in a few days. Kind of recap what happened with the rookies, and then get into it with main camp. Looking forward to seeing you down at the park over the next few days, Eddie. Thanks so much for doing this.
I appreciate you, Huss. Have a good day, and thanks for having me on, you guys.
Good stuff. Get ready for that fire drill. Enjoy.
Thanks, buddy.
There's Ed Tait. You can give Ed, of course, a follow on Twitter at Ed Tait WFC, and make sure to check out all of his work on the Blue Bombers at bluebombers.com. There's a few things I'm really looking forward to this summer. Bomber season, getting out to the Park Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, and getting out to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, one of the jewels of Manitoba. If you're looking for an incredible fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens is the place. Whether you're going with some pals, whether it's a family trip, father and son, or maybe a corporate getaway with some people that you've just been Zooming with for the last few years, there's nothing like Aikens. And as great as the fishing is, the hospitality of the Turen family and the Aikens team is even better. Find out more online about availability for the 2024 fishing season today at aikenslake.com. Make sure to check out all their socials at Aikens Lake. All right, we're going to get to the Coolbet lines in just a minute. But before we do that, nice little tie-in to our Breezy Bend golf report. By the way, course is looking great right now. The season is fully underway. We've got another Canadian winner on the PGA Tour. Taylor Pendrith winning on the 18th hole yesterday at the CJ Cup. Great stuff for Canadian golf, and big win for Pendy, as he will likely be on the President's Cup team coming up in September in Montreal with Captain Mike Weir. Of course, Breezy Bend, great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you're interested in finding out more on a future on the links at Breezy Bend, one of Manitoba's top private courses, get more information at breezybend.com, or give a call for Corey Johnson, our pal, the GM of the year, and of course the home of the champions as well. Braxton Kuntz, by the way, speaking of Breezy, has qualified for the final round of U.S. Open qualifying, so we'll be paying attention to that as well. But huge shout out to Taylor Pendrith, who, of course, is part of Team Coolbet. Saw the Cool Bear on his shoulder yesterday. Nice exposure for our friends at Coolbet, which takes us to the Coolbet lines for today. We got game one tonight. We finished up with the game sevens on the weekend. The Bruins survived. Their reward, a trip to South Florida to take on the Panthers. The Panthers minus 170 favorites. The Bruins plus 144. The Rangers up 1-0 on the Hurricanes. They're still underdogs. Like, the book loves the Carolina Hurricanes. Canes still plus 450 to win the Cup despite losing game number one. Tomorrow's game, Rangers plus 102 and Canes minus 120. But we do have series prices now for the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. Dallas is the favorite at minus 122, and the Avs plus 104. I think I think the Avalanche is some good value there. That, to me, is kind of more of a pick-em, to be perfectly honest. As far as this series tonight goes, Panthers minus 213 favorites, Bruins plus 178. Despite winning game one, the Rangers only a minus 135 favorite, Carolina plus 115. And the Vancouver Canucks are a heavy underdog in this one, plus 220 for the Canucks. Edmonton Oilers minus 270. NBA playoffs, couple games tonight. We've got game one between the Pacers and the Knicks. Knicks minus 227. Moneyline faves. Pacers plus 190. And the Nugs, after losing game one to Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves, back at it tonight. Timberwolves got to have it. They're minus 278 favorites to even the series at 1. T-Wolves plus 230. You've got NHL playoffs, NBA, the NLL, Wells Fargo golf. We'll hit that in the lock shop. And, of course, Major League Baseball. Blue Jays off today after a very disappointing loss yesterday to the Washington Nationals. But, again, congratulations to Coolbet and Canada's Taylor Pendrith on the big win yesterday. Check out the lock shop every day at noon at Edmonton Sports Talk. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST on your first deposit for a 100% bonus up to $200 over at Coolbet. Reem, let's just, obviously we're going to have a lot of time to talk Bombers going forward, but just finishing off today being all about Rick Bowness, some emotional moments there, some funny moments in there. I think in a lot of ways just sort of encapsulating the many sides to Bones and big reason why he was so beloved here, in addition to the incredible job he did really turning the Jets around.
Yeah, hard not to get emotional. I mean, watching that, Rick getting emotional at times and saying, hey, come on, guys, I'm just retiring. I'm not dead, or I forget the exact line, but got a chuckle. And yeah, I think he came in at a time when there's, some off-ice stuff with the Jets that needed to be dealt with. And he turned them around into Jennings Trophy winners. So, yes, next time I go to the Hockey Hall of Fame, I will be taking a picture of myself with the Jennings. I promise that. And got them back into the playoffs after a year where there were so many questions. Navigated, basically 2 years, Huss, where there was so much off-ice stuff. Like coming out of, I'm having flashbacks now the Jets don't have a coach, but that was the Trotz Watch summer, where he was kind of plan B, and we called him Trotz Light almost. And I think you saw that this season, just the way they played. But, even aside from the on ice, but off ice, changing the culture was so big. And I think you certainly saw that. And a big part of that was naming Adam Lowry as captain. So and a lot of positives to take away. And man, 38 seasons behind an NHL bench.
It's amazing.
Pretty incredible. And just the tweets I'm seeing from someone in just about every city. And Stephen Wino, who we've had on the program, I guess he had an article in 2020 saying however many degrees of Rick Bowness, how he's like the Kevin Bacon of the NHL. He's got a connection to everyone. I see like James Duthie writing that he regrets going up to his house with a camera after he got fired in Ottawa. James Cybulski as well in Ottawa. Todd Walsh in Arizona. Kevin Bieksa posted a picture. It seems like every single person that is in hockey has a Rick Bowness story. He's been everywhere, and he's been around for such a long time. So it was very nicely done press conference there, as today is about celebrating Rick Bowness, and we'll discuss how the Jets move forward as the days move on. It's still pretty early in the offseason here, Huss.
You know what? And listen, I'm going to miss him. Just as a fan, I got so much respect for what he did. We talked about this with Hammer, but if you rewind 2 years back and think about where this team was after Pomo ditched and then Dave Lowry came in for that very awkward half season, the job that Rick did if you would have told anyone, oh yeah, he's coming in and the team's winning 46 and 52 games, we'll be in the playoffs both years, despite the playoff disappointments, in round one, he is just, and as I said, his stamp and his legacy is going to be around here for a long, long time. And selfishly, Reem, we're going to miss Bones for just his candor, his color, and some of the best clips. I was thinking back to our best of Bones that we did at the end of last year, with some of the highlights, certainly some of the lowlights, the pushback press conference after Game 5 in Vegas. So many amazing moments, so many amazing sound bites, and at the end of the day, a guy that I think will be remembered very, very fondly and revered around here in hockey circles for a long time.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of love here in the chat, and yeah, we're definitely going to miss his press conferences. Wears his heart on his sleeve, as he said. He's an honest guy, and we certainly got a lot from the post-game press conferences. We didn't quite have the pushback at the end, but he did say, an hour after the game, when they lost to Colorado, he said, okay, he knew it was enough, and cited Simone. He's dealt with some health stuff the last couple of years, and he did say he's still dealing with some stuff, and didn't want to start next season and have to bail or have to be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. From talking with coaches more experienced than him, he said, hey, you know what? They said you'll know when it's time, and he knew. And nicely done press conference there by the Winnipeg Jets.
Miss him already, but as I said before, cheers to Rick Bowness. Both as a player back in the day for Jets 1.0, assistant coach, and then, doing just an incredible job as the head coach. And listen, no one's ever going to agree with every decision a coach makes, but overall, his impact with these 2 seasons, I think, is going to be around for a long, long time. And there is absolutely no doubt the Jets are in a far better situation today than when Rick Bowness took over. And of course, for our show, Reem, we'll get into the coaching search, and that'll be a story tomorrow and beyond. But today, one more time for Bones. This will go up. Shout out to Danimal again for making these things. We're going to have to put these a special place on the WST background, maybe, Reem, going forward, because Bones will not be forgotten.
No, 100%. And look, he got them back into the playoffs 2 seasons. Didn't have, the playoff success, but you can't argue with this record regular season we just saw that resulted in a Jack Adams nomination. So it'll be at the NHL Awards. Wouldn't that be great if he did win? That would be awesome.
You know what? For sure. I think Tockett's probably the favorite.
Yeah.
And Burnett did a great job, but Bones could be a very sentimental choice. Like the fact that he's up there, like if it came down to, and guys were just going, so close, I don't know who to go for. There's a lot that will look at what he did here in Winnipeg and potentially give the vote to Rick. That would be absolutely phenomenal. But either way, a very well-earned nomination for Coach of the Year. We'll be pulling for Bones, pulling for Helly at the awards in Vegas later on. And as I can say, now number 1 on our target list for an extended sit-down, just talking hockey and talking stories, will be Rick. And hopefully we'll be able to make that happen at some point over the summer, moving forward into the future. Who you like tonight, Florida or Boston?
I'm going Florida. I think they're much better than Boston. And Boston, they just played the other day. Florida's been sitting around. They're ready. I think this is Florida. What's Florida's series price? I forget what it was. Was it?
Oh, they're now they were minus 200. I think they're minus 213.
Yeah,
now,
minus
if
2.
I'm not mistaken.
They're big favorites. They're at home. I like Florida to take it. They were my preseason pick. I think I picked Carolina to win the cup actually in the bracket. Let me check. Should we check out our bracket challenge real quick? Let me see. But I had Florida winning against Toronto probably.
I heard Biz today talking. He's picking Florida Edmonton, which would be a pretty good final. I don't think enough people are talking about the Avalanche, and maybe we're still just, shell shocked from what they did to the Winnipeg Jets, but that is going to be a real tough team, and I think they really benefit from having the extra few days to get ready for Dallas, while Dallas had to go right to the limit to take out the Vegas Golden Knights. One other thing we'll have to get to at some point over the course of this week is the fallout in Leafland. I thought we might talk about that a little bit more today. Obviously, everything changed when we heard about Rick Bowness, but it sounds like from reading the old X machine, quite an eventful day with the Leafs locker room clear out, the interviews, Mitch Marner taking some heat, not surprisingly, and Sheldon Keefe apparently told by Brad Treliving he could either do the exit interviews or not, which I don't think bodes very well for Keefe's chance to come back as head coach again with the Leafs.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great. And Mitch Marner referring to themselves as gods in Toronto. I don't think you're supposed to say that out loud, especially using the term God. You could say we're thought very highly, or a lot of people look up to us. There's a lot of ways you can say that without making yourself look like an ass. The other thing that disappointed me, there were a lot of questions about injuries. Nylander, he said he couldn't really see because of migraines. That was after Saturday's game. And Austin Matthews really didn't divulge. There's so much like why? The season's over. Who cares? Say what was wrong. If he didn't really describe symptoms of his illness. People want to know the stuff, and I don't know why you're hiding it. If he was on the toilet for the whole day, just say, or if you had some banged up, I don't know what was going on. So you can't. There's more. I think more questions than answers of what was wrong with Austin Matthews. And I mean, he's their best player, he's their MVP, and I don't know. Maybe you can say they don't owe us injuries, but I don't know. I think the secrecy with NHL, especially when you're done, needs to end. Enough.
Yeah, listen, you're a little weird like that. You want every detail of, sick? How sick was he? How long was he in the bathroom for? I don't know whether we need that sort of detail.
Was he throwing up? What was going on here? Did he need an IV? I want to hear the treatment plan too, not just the injury. Come on, Austin, let us know.
Anyways, we'll hit a lot of other NHL topics with the playoffs, teams that got bounced over the next little bit, and we'll really dive into what's next for the Winnipeg Jets at the head coaching position. See Jacob Stoller tweeting from the Hockey News, tweeting, for what it's worth, I don't believe Scott O'Neill is a slam dunk to be the Winnipeg Jets' next head coach. That is the next case we're on. We'll hear more from some of our friends in the media this week, and looking forward to getting a little bit more details on the coaching search, who will be considered, and when they hope to have that decision made. As Remis mentioned, I believe Travis Green looks like he's the next coach of the Ottawa Senators. That's going to do it for us. Once again, cheers to the man, Rick Bowness. What a legendary career and legendary impact here in Winnipeg. We're going to miss you, Bones, and appreciate everything that you did for the hockey team and this community. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Ed Tait, Jeff Hamilton for joining us, as well as, of course, catching the Rick Bowness press conference live here on WST. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy Game 1 between Florida and Boston. And we'll be back tomorrow with more on the fallout from the Bowness retirement and a look ahead to Bomber rookie camp and the return of Milt Stiegel tomorrow, and much more from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Huge thanks to our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Again, have a good one. Get outside. Quite nice out there. A little windy, but certainly not too windy to enjoy a little bit of time outside. And we'll be with you tomorrow, 1 p.m. live on YouTube and shortly after in your podcast feed for a Tuesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Cheers to Bones. Cheers to you. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.